The rain in Seattle doesn't wash things clean, it just makes the grime slicker. Alina pushed open the heavy oak door of Vance's Antiquities. The bell above her head didn't tinkle, it clanged like a warning. She was dripping wet. Her coat was 3 years old and too thin for November. Her shoes squelched against the expensive Persian rug. Behind the counter sat Silas Vance. He didn't look up. He was polishing a pocket watch with a cloth that probably cost more than Alina's car. He was a legend in the city. The man who bought anything, if the price was right. The man who had a heart made of the same cold silver he sold in his cases. Alina walked to the counter. Her hands were shaking, not from the cold, from the fear. She reached into her pocket. Her fingers brushed against the eviction notice she had folded up an hour ago. 72 hours, that's what the landlord had said. 72 hours to come up with $2,000, or she and her 4-year-old daughter would be sleeping in the Honda. She pulled her hand out. She placed the ring on the glass counter. It made a small, hollow sound. Silas finally looked up. His eyes were gray, flat, unimpressed. He looked at the wet woman shivering in his shop, then he looked at the ring. It wasn't a diamond, it wasn't a ruby. It was a simple gold band, scratched, dented, worn dull by years of hard work. I don't buy scrap metal, try the pawn shop on 4th. He went back to his watch. Alina didn't move, she couldn't. It's not scrap. Silas stopped polishing. He sighed. The sigh of a man who has heard every sob story in the state of Washington. Look, I deal in history, I deal in rarity, I don't deal in desperation. Alina felt the tears prick her eyes. She bit her lip until she tasted copper. Please, just look at it. It's heavy. It's real gold. She didn't tell him it was the only thing she had left of Michael. She didn't tell him that selling it felt like burying her husband all over again. She just pushed the ring forward. Silas looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the dark circles under her eyes, the fraying collar of her shirt. He let out a short, annoyed breath. Fine. He picked up the ring. He didn't put on his jeweler's loop. He just weighed it in his hand. He had no idea that he was holding the answer to a question he had been asking for 10 years. And he had no idea that the woman standing in front of him was the only family he had left. Silas Vance wasn't always a cold man. 10 years ago, he had a son. Michael. Michael was bright, kind, too kind for the Shark Tank of high-end antiques. They had fought a terrible, screaming fight in the kitchen of the Vance estate. Michael didn't want the business. He didn't want the money. He wanted to be a mechanic. He wanted to work with his hands. Silas had given him an ultimatum. You take over the company or you leave with nothing. Michael left. He walked out the door and never looked back. Silas had waited. He waited for a week, a month, a year. He waited for Michael to fail, to come crawling back. But Michael never called. Silas hardened. He built a wall of money and rare objects around himself. He told himself he didn't care, but every night he stared at the phone, waiting. Now, standing in his shop, looking at this shivering woman, Silas felt nothing but irritation. It's 14 carat, maybe 5 grams. Alina held her breath. How much? Silas dropped the ring onto the scale. Gold is down this week. Melt value is maybe 300. Alina felt the room spin. 300 wouldn't cover the rent. It wouldn't even cover the back payments on the car, but it would buy groceries. It would buy the antibiotics for Lily's ear infection. I was hoping for more. It's vintage. It's damaged. Look at these scratches. I can't resell this. I have to melt it down. Melt it down. The words hit Alina like a physical blow. The ring Michael had worn every day. The ring he had twisted on his finger when he was nervous. The ring she had taken off his hand in the hospital morgue, melted into a shapeless lump. Can you do 400? Her voice broke. Silas looked at the clock. He wanted to go to lunch. 3:50, take it or leave it. Alina looked at the ring. She remembered the day Michael put it on. They were 22. They had gotten married at the courthouse because they couldn't afford a wedding. He had promised her the world. He gave her 5 years of happiness instead, before the drunk driver, before the crash, before the silence. She closed her eyes. Okay, I'll take it. Silas nodded, business as usual. He opened the register. He counted out $350, old bills. He slid them across the counter. Alina picked them up. Her fingers brushed his. Silas pulled back as if he had been burned. She took the money. She didn't say thank you, she couldn't. She turned around and walked toward the door. She stopped at the threshold. She looked back one last time. Silas had already swept the ring into a bin marked to smelt. Alina choked back a sob and pushed out into the rain. The door clanged shut. Silas was alone again. He locked the register. He picked up the bin. He was about to dump it into the safe when something caught his eye. The light from the chandelier hit the inside of the ring. There was writing. Usually Silas didn't care about inscriptions. Love forever. To my soulmate. It was all sentimental garbage to him, but this inscription looked different. It was etched deep. Hand-carved. Curiosity, his oldest vice, got the better of him. He reached into the bin and pulled the ring out. He reached for his jeweler's loupe. He screwed it into his eye. He brought the ring up to the light. He read the words, and the blood drained from his face so fast he had to grab the counter to keep from falling. The shop went silent. Even the ticking of the grandfather clock seemed to stop. Silas stared at the ring. His hands, usually steady as a surgeon's, were shaking violently. He read it again, just to be sure he wasn't hallucinating. To Mikey. Build your own world, Dad. The room spun. Mikey. Nobody called him Mikey. Only Silas. And only when Michael was a little boy, before the business took over, before the arguments, before the estrangement. This wasn't just any ring. This was his ring. Silas remembered it now. He remembered the day he gave it to Michael. It was Michael's 18th birthday. Silas had taken his own father's wedding band, melted it down, and had it recast for his son. He had carved the inscription himself, sitting at this very bench. Build your own world. It was supposed to be a blessing. Michael had taken it as a curse. Silas gripped the ring tight. Where did that woman get this? Did she steal it? Was she a nurse who slipped it off a patient? A thief who robbed a house? Rage flared in his chest, hot and blinding. Someone had robbed his son. He ran around the counter. He didn't grab his coat. He didn't lock the shop. He threw the door open. Hey, you! The rain was coming down in sheets now. The sidewalk was a sea of black umbrellas. He looked left. He looked right. There, a block away. A thin beige coat disappearing around the corner. Silas ran. He was 62 years old. He hadn't run in decades. His lungs burned. The cold rain soaked his silk shirt. He didn't care. He turned the corner. She was standing at a bus stop. She was huddled against the plastic shelter, counting the bills in her hand. Silas slowed down. He was panting. He walked up to her. Where did you get it? Alina jumped. She dropped the money. The bills scattered on the wet pavement. She looked up and saw the shop owner. He looked wild. His hair was plastered to his forehead. He was clutching the ring in his fist. I didn't steal it. Don't lie to me. This ring belongs to Michael Vance. My son, where is he? Alina froze. The color left her face. She looked at the angry man, then she looked at the ring in his hand. Vance, she looked at his eyes, gray, flat, just like Michael's. You're Silas. Silas stepped forward. Where is he? Tell me where he is. Alina stared at him. Suddenly, the anger in Silas's face faltered. He saw something in her eyes. He saw pity. He never told you. Told me what? I haven't spoken to him in 10 years. I've been waiting for him to call. Tell him to call me. Alina let out a breath that sounded like broken glass. She stepped closer to him. She didn't care about the rain anymore. He can't call you Silas. Silas felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. Why not? Alina reached out. She touched his arm. Her hand was warm. Michael died 3 years ago. The world stopped. The sound of the bus brakes screeching. The chatter of the people, the rain, it all went silent. Silas stood on the corner of 4th and Pine, and he felt his life shatter. No, that's not. I would know. It was a drunk driver. He was coming home from the garage. He died instantly. The police. They said they couldn't find any next of kin. He never put you down as a contact. He never put you down. The words cut deeper than any knife. Michael had erased him. Just like Silas had tried to erase Michael. Silas fell to his knees. He didn't care about the mud. He didn't care about the strangers watching. He knelt on the wet concrete and covered his face with his hands. I thought I had time. I thought. One day he would walk through that door. He looked up at Alina. He hated me. Alina looked down at the broken man. She should hate him. He was the reason Michael had struggled. He was the reason they had no safety net, but she looked at his grief. It was raw. It was real. She knelt down beside him. She began to pick up the wet $20 bills from the sidewalk. He didn't hate you. Silas looked at her. How do you know? Because he never took the ring off. She pointed to the gold band still clutched in Silas's hand. He worked with his hands all day. Grease, oil, heavy machinery. Mechanics aren't supposed to wear rings, it's dangerous, but he never took it off, he told me. She paused, wiping her eyes. He told me it was the only compass he had. He said his dad wanted him to build his own world, and he was trying to make one you'd be proud of. Silas closed his eyes. The tears burned hot. I missed it. I missed all of it. He looked at Alina. And you're his wife. I was, and you sold it for $350. Alina looked down. The shame burned her cheeks. I didn't have a choice. Lily needs medicine, and the landlord. Silas's head snapped up. Lily? Alina nodded. She pulled out her phone. She swiped to the lock screen. A picture of a little girl with curly brown hair and gray eyes. Michael's eyes. Silas's eyes. She's 4. She never met her daddy. I was pregnant when he died. Silas stared at the phone. A granddaughter. He had a granddaughter. He looked at the eviction notice sticking out of Alina's pocket. He looked at her thin coat. He looked at the wet money in her hand. He had been sitting on a mountain of gold, polishing watches, while his own flesh and blood was starving 3 miles away. He stood up. He didn't feel like an old man anymore. He felt like a man with a mission. He reached down and pulled Alina to her feet. Keep the money. Alina blinked. What? Keep the $350. That's for the taxi. Taxi to where? To your apartment. Pack your bags. Pack. You're not staying there. You're coming home. Home. The estate has 10 bedrooms, and I think Lily needs a yard to run in. Alina pulled back. Silas, I can't. We don't know you. You can't just. Silas stopped her. He took her hands in his. Please. It was a word Silas Vance hadn't used in 40 years. I can't fix what I did to Michael. I have to live with that every day for the rest of my life, but I can fix this. Let me fix this. He looked at her with desperate hope. Let me be a grandfather, please. Alina looked at him. She saw the regret, she saw the loneliness, and she saw Michael. She squeezed his hands. Okay. The house on the hill was quiet no more. 3 months later, the hallways of the Vance estate echoed with the sound of running feet. Silas sat in the garden. He wasn't polishing a watch. He was pushing a swing. Higher, Grandpa, higher. Lily shrieked with laughter, her gray eyes sparkling in the sun. Silas pushed. He laughed with her. He looked over at the patio. Alina was sitting there reading a book. She wasn't wearing the thin coat anymore. She looked rested, safe. She smiled at him. Silas stopped the swing for a moment. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out the ring. He had polished it, but he hadn't buffed out the scratches. The scratches were part of the story. They were the proof of the work Michael had done. He didn't wear it. It was too small for his finger now. Instead, he had put it on a gold chain around his neck. It rested right over his heart. He looked at the inscription one more time. Build your own world. Michael had done it. He had built a family. He had built love. And now Silas was just grateful that he had been invited to live in it. Grandpa, why are you crying? Silas wiped his eye. He smiled at the little girl who looked just like his son. I'm not crying, sweetie. I'm just finally seeing clearly. He gave her a big push. He watched her soar toward the sky, and for the first time in 10 years, the rain had stopped.